Gene Deal just broke his silence, and what he's revealing is absolutely insane. Remember that Netflix documentary about Diddy that everyone's been talking about? Well, the footage Gene Deal collected was too controversial for Netflix. They couldn't show it. But here's the thing. Gene's about to leak every single piece of evidence that 50 Cent had to censor. And trust me, this is going to change everything you thought you knew. Look, I know you clicked on this video because you want the real story, the uncensored truth, and that's exactly what you're going to get. Gene Deal, Diddy's former bodyguard who saw everything firsthand, finally did an interview, and he's not holding back anymore. Here's what you need to understand. Gene was supposed to be in the Netflix documentary. He talked with 50 Cent for 45 minutes. They had plans. But then, something went wrong. The director disrespected him, and Gene walked away. Now he's revealing all the stories that didn't make the cut. You're going to discover the real story behind the City College tragedy, the truth about Anthony Wolf Jones, what really happened with Kim Porter, and why A-list celebrities paid to stay out of this documentary. Everything 50 Cent couldn't show you is about to be revealed right here, right now. So let's get into it. Alright, before we dive into the leaked information, you need to understand what happened behind the scenes. Because this is wild. 50 Cent and Netflix just released this documentary called Sean Combs: The Reckoning. It hit #1 on Netflix immediately. Everyone's watching it, everyone's talking about it. But here's what they're not telling you. This documentary left out some of the most important stories. Gene Deal was Diddy's bodyguard for years. This man witnessed everything. The parties, the violence, the business deals, the tragedies, everything. He's been collecting footage and evidence for years, just waiting for the right moment to tell the truth. Now, Gene initially wanted to be part of 50 Cent's documentary. He believed in the project. He thought this was finally going to be the moment where the real story came out. But then he met with the director, a woman named Alex Stapleton. And let me tell you, that meeting did not go well.
It don't even make me sound. I want to put her on blast because she was telling me, she was saying to me that what I was asking for was crazy, and they wasn't spending money like that. I'm talking about you got footage, you got clothing, you got. I was doing footage. I had pictures, all the stuff that I had. You could figure out a way to pay a brother, stuff like that. And then I was telling her about some prices that I've already received, and I had the invoices to show it. And then she was calling me like I was lying. I was like, yo, who do you think you're talking to? You know what I'm saying? And she was talking about, there's no way nobody paid. Nobody what? I say, first of all you people come with these documentaries and stuff. The first thing you tell me, y'all tell these people out here that y'all don't pay, and y'all pay. If you can make a picture look like $10,000, $15,000, you know what I'm saying? You can sit here and tell me that you're gonna pay me for my time sitting right down here with y'all. You understand? So then, one thing led to another, and I was like, all right, well then, F you, I spoke to 50, and then she said 50, and this is exact words that came out of her mouth. 50 does not determine what goes in and goes out of this documentary.
Gene wanted to do this right. He tried to put together a package deal with two other guys who knew Diddy from the beginning, Tim and Kirk Burrows. These three men could have told the complete story, from Diddy's childhood to the street stuff to the business empire, everything. Gene asked for $50,000 for all three of them as a package. That's fair, right? Especially when you consider the value of the footage and evidence they had. But here's where it gets messy. Alex Stapleton, the director, told Gene something shocking. She said 50 Cent doesn't determine what goes in the documentary. He doesn't control who gets paid. She basically said 50's name is just being used for promotion, but he doesn't actually have power over the project. Gene felt completely disrespected. He had invoices showing what other documentaries had paid him. He showed her proof, but she called him a liar. Can you imagine? This man risked his life protecting Diddy, witnessed actual crimes, collected evidence for years, and the director treated him like he was making things up. And here's the crazy part. While Gene was trying to negotiate a fair deal for everyone, Kirk Burrows was making secret side deals. That's how the industry works, right? Everyone's looking out for themselves. Gene was trying to help everyone get paid fairly, but Kirk was cutting his own deal behind the scenes. So Gene walked away. He refused to participate. And that's why the documentary you watched on Netflix feels incomplete. Because the man who knew the most refused to be part of it. But now, he's ready to tell you everything they left out. Let's start with something the documentary barely touched. How Bad Boy Records was really structured. Because this is important. This explains everything. Kirk Burrows, one of the guys I just mentioned, owned 25% of Bad Boy Records from the very beginning. Diddy owned the other 75%. But here's the twist. It was all under his mother's name, Janice Combs. Why would Diddy do that? Why not put the company in his own name? Gene Deal knows exactly why. It was a scheme to avoid legal liability. See, Diddy knew he was going to be sued after the City College tragedy. We'll get to that story in a minute, but just know, 9 people died at an event Diddy organized. Their families were going to sue. So Diddy made sure the company wasn't in his name. Smart, right? Evil, but smart. But then Diddy decided he wanted Kirk's 25% too. According to Kirk's own testimony in the documentary, Diddy showed up with a baseball bat. He threatened Kirk's life, forced him to sign over his stake in the company. Kirk tried to sue in 2003, but the case got thrown out because too much time had passed. Think about that. Kirk co-founded Bad Boy Records. He did the work. He built the company alongside Diddy. And then Diddy took everything from him with violence and threats. Kirk ended up homeless at one point. Meanwhile, Diddy became a billionaire off the company they built together. The documentary mentioned this story, but they didn't go deep enough. Gene Deal could have explained the whole scheme. He could have shown how Diddy used his mother's name to hide money and avoid lawsuits. But none of that made it into the final cut. I wonder why.
About the documentary, they left a whole lot of key things out. If they was going to do something and they're going to say in the reckoning of Sean Combs, the reckoning, or Diddy, the reckoning and stuff like that, it should have been a lot of people that we lost because of him. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't only Big. It wasn't only Tupac. You understand? For the atmosphere that he put those kids in, you got a guy named Anthony Wolf Jones, who was from Bad Boy from its conception, is doing security and being one of the financiers of Puff having to have some money to keep Big and Craig Mack around before he got to Clyde Davis.
Now this is where it gets really dark. Gene Deal says there's a whole murder story that the documentary completely ignored. And I'm talking about Anthony Wolf Jones. Wolf was Bad Boy's head of security from day one. This man was there before Clive Davis, before the record deals, before any of it. He was one of Diddy's most loyal soldiers. He knew everything, and I mean everything. Where the bodies were buried, who got paid off, what really happened at those parties. Wolf knew it all. And according to Gene Deal, Diddy's actions directly led to Wolf's murder. Now, Gene says the documentary team didn't have the intel to tell this story properly. They didn't do the investigation. They didn't have the evidence. Or maybe they did, and they chose not to use it. Wolf was killed by someone associated with BMF. That's Black Mafia Family, one of the biggest criminal organizations in hip-hop history. And Gene is saying there's a direct connection between Wolf's death and Diddy. But the documentary barely mentioned Wolf at all. They showed a few pictures, said he was security, and moved on. Why? Because this story is too dangerous. It involves real criminals, real murders, real organized crime. Netflix didn't want to touch it. 50 Cent probably didn't want to touch it either. But Gene Deal is saying this story needs to be told. Wolf's death wasn't random. It was connected to everything else.
It was Puff, Heavy D, and Jessica. You know what I'm saying? Jessica was the reason why those kids lost their life, because she locked the door on those kids running down the step. You understand? You could see her name in a news article, but they didn't mention nothing about her taking place, but they try to put Heavy D, God bless the dead, out there, and they put Puff out there. You know what I'm saying? She should have been the main one, because she is the one who locked the door on the kids. You understand? She is the one who locked the door on the kids, and all those kids lost their life.
All right, this next story is going to make you angry. Because the documentary told you about the City College tragedy, but they didn't tell you the whole truth. Gene Deal was actually there that night. He witnessed everything. And what he's revealing changes the entire story. December 28th, 1991. Diddy organized this celebrity basketball game at City College in New York. It was supposed to be this huge charity event. Heavy D was involved, all the big celebrities were coming. Mike Tyson, LL Cool J, everyone. The place was packed. Now, Gene Deal's security team was originally hired to handle the outside. He had 18 men ready to go. They had dogs, Rottweilers, pit bulls. They had gates set up. They had a whole system to control the crowd. Gene knew how people get in Harlem when celebrities show up. He was prepared. But the day before the event, Diddy came to Gene and said Heavy D didn't want his security team there anymore. They were fired. Just like that. No outside security. So the night of the event, chaos broke out. Thousands of people were trying to get in. When Mike Tyson and LL Cool J walked through the front door instead of the back, the crowd went crazy. They rushed the entrance. People were being crushed in the stairwell. Now here's the part the documentary didn't tell you. There was a woman named Jessica Rosenblum. She was one of the promoters alongside Diddy and Heavy D. When Jessica saw the crowd surging, she panicked. But she wasn't worried about the people. She was worried about the money box. All the cash from ticket sales. Gene says Jessica grabbed the money and locked the door at the bottom of the stairs. She locked it to protect the cash. And when she locked that door, she trapped hundreds of people in that stairwell. 9 people died. 9 kids. Crushed to death. Because someone locked a door to protect money. Gene couldn't get down the stairs because of the crowd. He had to run around the entire gymnasium, come in from another entrance, and start opening doors from the inside. By the time he got there, kids were already dead. He performed CPR on a 17-year-old boy. The kid died anyway. The boy's older brother was there, crying, saying, "This is the first time I ever took my little brother anywhere. My mom was gonna kill me." Gene Deal witnessed all of this. He knows exactly what happened. He knows who locked that door. But Jessica Rosenblum was never held accountable. Her name appears in old news articles, but that's it. No charges, no consequences, nothing. The documentary mentioned the City College tragedy, but they focused on Diddy and Heavy D. They never talked about Jessica. They never explained why Gene's security team was fired. They never told you that someone locked a door to protect cash while 9 people died.